Okay, well, I'll call the meeting to order. I'm not sure I should. We haven't elected a chair yet. So. Anyway, I'll call it to order. And the first item up is the approval of the agenda of today's meeting. So can we have a mover?
Yeah, I can move.
Okay, Susan, thank you.
I'll second it.
Seconder from Nancy. All in favour?
Yes.
Okay, I guess that's carried.
All right.
So the next item is I guess you should run that.
Yeah, no, you're welcome to run it as chair until there's a new chair who will carry on the remainder of the meeting.
Oh, okay. So we're not going to do the nominations, the elections.
Yeah, no, you can continue on in the agenda for the next item. Yeah.
All right.
So
So can we have a nomination for a chair? I'm willing to continue to serve if at your pleasure. So
That's great.
That's great. I think you've done a good role so far.
thank you. I think we could take it as read then. That I'm the chair. So I'll nominate the vice chair.
All right, David, can you just get a mover and seconder for that?
Oh, okay. Okay, so the mover,
I can
we're
move
going
it.
back to the chair now. So who's moving to elect the chair?
I've got Laura as a mover.
Oh, I guess. Sorry,
I've got Laura as a mover.
Laura?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Okay, that's a second. Okay, all in favour? We got three with their hand up. I guess that's it.
This
Okay,
would be
so that's
four.
carried.
You're
All right,
good.
four. Yeah,
okay.
so that's carried. And I'll nominate Robert as vice chair. Somebody cares to.
Unless
second?
there's somebody else would like to step up.
Not this time. I'll second that
Second.
for Robert to be vice chair still.
Okay. All in favour?
Yes.
Why not?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's carried.
Okay.
So I ask if there's any declarations of pecuniary interests and the general nature thereof. Noting none. We'll move on to adoption of the minutes. Approval of the minutes of the November 8th, 2021 Heritage Advisory Committee meeting. So a mover,
I'll put that.
Nancy. Seconder, Laura. All in favour?
All right.
Carried. So next is correspondence. Is there any correspondence anybody wants to bring up? None noted. We will move on to reports. So the first item, 8.1, is the draft heritage permit policy and procedure, authored by Paul. Is there any discussion that anybody would like to bring up?
Yes, I'm just trying to find.
This is the document, if everybody's read it.
Okay, that was sent in an email by Paul?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Okay, but it's not attached to our packet.
Basically,
Sorry,
no,
no,
it's sent-
okay,
it's a separate
just
email
focus.
by Paul.
yeah, okay, I'll go into it, just a sec.
So basically, as I read it, it's a permit. It sets up a guideline for applying for making changes to heritage properties that have been approved by the council. So it sets out a procedure for doing that. It's probably a really good idea. And it's, I guess, the only danger really is that some of the owners that have a property that's protected may think this is a little bit onerous. So I don't know what Paul's plan or the municipality's plan is to move it out to the owners. I mean, is there an intent to circulate this to the owners? Or is it just be a part of the review of any building permit, I suppose? Could you comment on that, Paul?
Sure. Yeah, so the fact that we have lands designated does put an obligation on staff to administer that process when there's changes to properties or buildings that are designated. So this is more of an internal procedure that we may have been doing somewhat informally, but now we have something that can be shared with applicants and communicated across departments and generally allow for more expedient administrative processing of modifications to property or buildings that have been designated. So I see this as more of an internal procedure and not needing to be sent out to the designated properties. This is always an inferred process as per the act and the nature and a virtue of the bylaw that designates the property. So, but if committee would like some additional consultation to occur on this and have a bit more time to review the details within it and bring it back next day, then staff are happy to assist in that process.
I was looking at the examples of the external works and I wasn't sure. I'm glad you clarified that, that it was an internal document. I think some of it is, I don't think there's any power for the committee or staff to really enforce as far as the Heritage Act goes. Well, I suppose we could, but in particular, there's things about replacement of windows and doors. So maybe that should say heritage windows and doors, or the original reasons for heritage designation, the heritage attributes of the building itself. So that there's no confusion, because they may have been changed over time. The building, I can think of an example of a very notable building in Brighton, and that would be the White House, that has changed over time. And that all has become a part of the history of that building. So, of course, you couldn't take it back to the original, because this building actually tells a story. So so that part of it I'm not sure about, for replacement of windows and doors, door openings, that sort of thing. The removal of porch, it's the same thing. Again, we want to encourage the heritage attributes and the materials and so on, but you know, and avoid destroying those, I suppose we could say. The roofing really isn't an attribute, and I don't see how we could we'd have any control, or the municipality would have any control over the type of roofing material that was used. It doesn't really alter the effect of the heritage attributes of the building, in my opinion. So anyway, these are just comments that I thought I'd bring up, and as far as I know, decking and fencing and things like that, you know, trees, this sort of thing. As far as I know, we don't have anything yet, so it's probably a good idea to note those in future anyway, with any designations that we move forward with. And that's my comments.
I think it's a rather good start, especially a couple of years ago, we had some miscommunication from, and we lost a heritage building, the old school. If somebody didn't say okay somewhere along the lines, and it got back to the Heritage Committee or the planner, we could have stopped it and saved or rescued components of that property on Newton. It's, I think we've got a good basis, and we can work from something rather than having to guess and make it up as we play. If we've got a good sound basis, it's a good start, and then perhaps we can look at solid representations of other things. We could look at cemeteries. People are really interested in the cemeteries, and securing cemeteries. This might be a good basis to start, and if we can expand to the heritage of cemeteries, we have something like 17 in the municipality that are registered, and there's many smaller ones now. I'm coming across as many as 10 or 12 pioneer and family plots around that might need to be acknowledged sometime in the future. That's just another point we can build from this, but I think it's a great start. That's it.
Okay.
I
I'm not so
think-
sure about cemeteries. I think there would be a specific case, but anyways. Sorry, Laura, go ahead.
I think the purpose of this, and Paul can comment on it, is to have some sort of permit policy for those who want to do renovations or adjustments to a heritage designated properly, not listed, I would imagine. Paul, did you pull this from something from another community? Is this kind of a basis as far as how these policies are made up?
Yes, I found an example and did a number of edits, and so it's a kind of a compilation from different other active references. And maybe to Nancy's point, I could change the title under the one list there, saying examples of external works that usually require a heritage permit. I can throw the word, about affecting, identified heritage attributes. So I can throw the word attribute somewhere in the title, and that'll be more clear that if you're offending the attributes, then our permits are required, and you'll need to maybe adjust your materials or designs to be more or sensitive to or sympathetic to the attributes. I'm just thinking that some of the exterior elements there is a risk that some exterior elements could change, even though they may not be in the period of the designation. They could change to be, you know, even egregious in terms of its compliance with the attributes as identified. So it could go from not very nice and subtle and not obnoxious to quite obnoxious upon the change. So maybe even some of the things that weren't original, we may want to have some comment on those changes. But it would be worthwhile for us to maybe dialogue with some of the landowners, let them know that when they're doing work that they should be giving us a call.
Yes, Laura.
I just wanted to ask then also, so this is for if someone wants to do a renovation. If someone applies for a demolition permit, is it normally checked to see whether it is a heritage property or not?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we do have a demolition permit process, so that does require an application, and the application will then be vetted. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that any alterations or additions to a designated heritage property, I'm not sure that they would, you know, they have to be, I guess, sensitive to the, but clearly there could be defined as a distinction between what is clearly not heritage and what is, you know. So, and again, it's respecting the heritage attributes, but I don't think, I think it'd be stretching it if we told them they couldn't put it, this type of addition. I know what you mean though, Paul. But I think if we protected what is defined in that designation, the attributes, then I think that's what the intention is. I just see the examples of work that do not require a heritage permit. I just like to take exception to brick and mortar repairs. So my experience says that you really have to, repointing has been done with concrete, which is harder than the softer brick, and it's actually caused quite a bit of damage to that. And you can see examples in a couple of the buildings in the town. I won't name them, but you can clearly see where they've used concrete instead of a limestone base to repoint brick. So it is sensitive, and there is a correct way to do things. So maybe that should be included in the things that we do go over.
To the chair of the committee, that's a good point. I'll make that revision. I do recall a situation in the city of Kingston when they were redoing one of the heritage buildings. I think it was one of the churches, and contractor used the wrong mortar, and it had the wrong acidity or alkalinity, and it didn't bind with the existing, and they basically had to repoint the whole building when they were pretty much done. So that's a good point. Yeah. So I'll make a revision to that based on what you're so appropriately noting. And I'll give you maybe an old example here. So we've received an application along County Road 64 for a severance of the Hobie House. And so the severance isn't affecting the house at all. In the attributes listing for that designation speak to the fireplaces inside it and things like that. So, and not the property itself. So and that's will be an example where we're not going to be asking for a heritage impact review at all, because it's really not affecting the original basis for the designation, which is the attributes of the building itself and not the property. We you know, the committee could presumably designate lands as a landscape cultural area, and then in which case properties and how they are being severed or not, that would or could be a heritage issue. But that's different from the Toby House on County Road 64 that we're dealing with now. So we've just given notice of that application. So it's in the process, but again, we felt there's no basis for asking for any kind of heritage impact review.
Well, there seems to be a consensus that this is a worthwhile document to have, so that, you know, we can keep tabs on things. So I don't know what we can do, or it would be wise for us to do as a committee.
Would any, for, if this document was adopted, is there any, what am I trying to say? Would it go back to the committee or just municipal staff? If somebody wanted to alter a property, would it go to committee and then staff, or? I know finally it goes to council for council's approval, but I'm not sure that that's clear to me. Just looking at the Ontario Heritage Act, section 33, I think it is, for alterations.
The chair to committee, normally I was going to have a minor permit application and a major permit application. So the minor would just be dealt with by staff, and the major one would be brought forward to this committee for its review prior to any kind of permit being issued. So we can take a look at that type of approach and have some general criterion within this guideline of what constitutes minor versus what constitutes major, and let folks know within that same guideline that you may need to pay the committee a visit if you're doing major alterations to a designated building or property. But on the minor side of things, that staff would just expedite it in the course of doing the building permit or any other request independent of a building permit that they might get.
Yeah, I think personally, I think the main point here is that the owners usually are very appreciative of the fact they own a heritage home, and they take a great deal of pride in that. The problem areas, generally speaking, problem areas start when they're not quite sure how to proceed on, let's say, replacing the roof tiles, you know, replacing the roof. I mean, most people that are willing to put up with having the, or like the idea of a cedar shake or a shakes roof, wouldn't be very happy to see it replaced with shingles, you know, like tile paper. So I think the strength of this is to give some kind of outline and give owners a channel to talk it over with the right department within the municipality, and then have the benefit of any advice that the committee is able to provide. You know, I think the real thing to avoid is having this document viewed as a restrictive on, unnecessarily restrictive on owners. I think we need to go out of our way to make that very clear as the thing goes forward. I mean, I wouldn't like to see headlines in the local paper that the town introduces new policies for heritage buildings and have it go out to the community that way. And I think Laura had her hands up. Laura, did you have a comment?
Just for Paul's the intention that this will go, this policy will go before council for approval before it's implemented, or is it just going through this process back and forth at this point?
At this point, we're just kind of going back and forth. I anticipate it maybe coming before council by way of minutes of this committee. But if you think it's more desirable to have it in a separate staff report going to council, then I think that would be fine too. Especially if it seems to be elevated into the policy level of things as opposed to administrative procedural level of things. So, but I think at this point, I think it might be worthwhile making those edits that we've been discussing, as well as additional edits that, you know, after this conversation with one of the group, if there's other thoughts, then we can make those further edits if staff can receive an email suggesting what changes are desired, and then give notice to the affected landowners. And then bring this back before committee again, and based on that outcome, if committee wants it to go to council, or if, then we can take it to council that, upon committee's recommendation. Does that work for you, Deputy?
Yeah, I think that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Let's leave it like that. But let's all, I'd like to see this go gently into the ether, not that, we've got this new bunch of rules for heritage properties. You know, and it's very often it's just the way it's introduced to the community that can either be positive or negative, and if it's perceived negatively, we all know what happens then. You know, people throw up their arms and don't want anything to do with heritage appreciation. You know, I'd like to see it more sort of starting out as sort of guidance for owners of heritage property to make sure they keep their value and keep the value of the heritage assets of the building. And anytime, you know, we introduce any set of rules like this, it's always useful if you can introduce them along with some assurance of support from the municipality. In other words, perhaps the municipality in its wisdom would feel justified in helping out a particular situation, helping out the owner to pay for something that is deemed to have value for the community. That's a basic principle that I think, and you know, should shine through whatever messaging is put out there. I'm thinking what everybody said is that well, where do you see this, Paul, going from here now? Where do you see the next step? We've had a chat with the committee, and
Sure. So what I can do is make
Given
a couple of revisions. Nancy pointed out a couple of important revisions. I'll throw in some language what constitutes minor versus a major change to a building or property that's been designated. The minor ones would be clear that there's really no extra procedure other than to demonstrate a bit of detail on how you're maintaining the attributes. For major, then it might require a heritage impact assessment report. And once those revisions are changed, are made, then I can circulate to the designated property owners and have it come back to committee for next meeting. And then if the committee is happy with it at that point, the staff recommendation will be to take it to council for acceptance. I think that would complete our process.
Okay.
I think we've lost your audio, Paul. Maybe not.
Having some difficulty hearing me. This computer audio is sometimes not 100%. So I'll make the changes, and once the changes are made, I will we'll bring it back to committee for next session with the recommendation it goes to council for acceptance for its resolution of support. And in the meanwhile, we'll also circulate to landowners so that they can be properly informed.
Okay. Let's. Did I heard that? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, were you able to hear me okay on that one?
No.
Okay.
But that's okay. I don't think I think as long as we can, it sounded like you were going to tweak it a little bit and bring it back to the committee. Is that about right?
That's correct.
Okay. So I don't know. I'm very agreeable to that. Who knows? Maybe we can have a live meeting by that time. Anyway, is there any more discussion? Do we need to pass? And I'd like to see this noted in the minutes that it was discussed in full, and Paul will be coming back to us with
So
some more information.
I've put in the minutes that the committee provided their comments on the document and that the director will make some edits to the document and bring it forward to the next meeting. I don't think a motion is going to be required for that. You guys will do a motion to bring it in front of council at your next meeting.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Everybody good
No
on
problem.
that? Okay. So we're now on to 8.2. Update from the chair regarding joining Brighton Digital Archives. What I can report to you at this point, both committees seem to be very keen on some kind of cooperation on both our committees' aims and objectives. Digital Archive seems very keen on publicising Brighton's heritage, which would be useful to the committee over the long term. However, we have to be careful to protect owners' privacy, as we, and I wouldn't like to see those little aircraft things, what do they call them? Zooming over people's houses, reporting back to the committee that this one's got nice cedar shapes and something like that, But anyway, So what we really need is the discussion to clarify the goals of both committees and agree on the areas that can productively work together. The chair of the other committee and I think most members would agree that a face-to-face meeting would probably be the better way to go, because otherwise we'd be talking about having a Zoom meeting like this with 16 people participating, and I'm not sure it's going to go over too well. Just to the chair of the other committee, and they'd be willing to give it a go if we wanted to try a virtual meeting. But I guess I'd say I'm okay to give it a try. But I don't think, in my personal point of view is, I don't think we're in a huge hurry here, and I'd sooner wait until we can sit around in a big circle and have a good chat about it. Anyway, I'd welcome any comments that the rest of the committee want to make.
Yeah, I think we can wait until we're all in safer mindset, at least in a couple months, and we can sit around together and we're all a little safer. Do we have any salient points that need to be brought up beforehand, or is there something that the Heritage Advisory Committee needs to bring up with the BDA, how maybe we'd like to see how they support our information? I'd like to be able to go in and put a street address, knowing that 89 Main Street's in there as a heritage on the archive, is a heritage property, and be able to bring it up in the search. At the moment, some of the heritage homes, some of the properties you can track, but perhaps ask them if they could improve their index a little bit. That's the only thing I'd make a suggestion for the archive. So is there any other points somebody else might want to bring up with the archive members? Because they seem to have seem to be working on video and story collecting and image harvesting, which is great for them, and it's a great resource for people. But there's less of an index between heritage and the archive online at the moment. I may put it at the meeting that there needs to be a different type of index for specifically for heritage properties. And anybody else has any idea on that? Well, that'll be something.
Is that the news?
Okay, David.
Yeah, my idea on that is that the committee is responsible for keeping a list of heritage buildings, and to the extent that the archives can help us promote that, let's say, or make it more available
I think,
obviously, since we represent the municipality in some respect, and like I think we need to have some control over the level of detail and respect for the privacy of the property owners. You know, like I say, you don't want to get pictures of properties up on the website somewhere that are not complimentary, let's say, or maybe reveal aspects of the property that might be helpful to people with nasty ideas.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, like, I'm not saying anybody would do anything deliberately, but if you're putting pictures of properties up on the website, and you might miss that you could maybe view into somebody's living room and see that they've got a safe now,
Yeah.
which would obviously have valuable objects in it. It's a touchy kind of area, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just being paranoid.
I wasn't looking as a security thing, but we've added a few new properties, and like 89 Main Street, we have some historic images of the house, but that house on the archive at the moment is not acknowledged as a heritage property. It's just something that archive or to their index, their search index, would acknowledge the new properties. We also have 85 Main and another property, that could be added that aren't at the moment, and most of the archives images are historic images, so we're not looking at somebody's cat sitting on a porch in at the door taken last week. We're looking at a historic image, and all I was looking more, we don't need to invade anybody's privacy. It's more, we need to connect our heritage information with the information that somebody walking along the street can acknowledge. Yes, that's if they don't see the plaque at the door side, they'll know that that's been added sometime in the recent past. But I can understand your security issues in that, so maybe I'll temper my ideas first. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak to this subject?
well, I don't think we know what the digital archives want from us until we actually meet. So I guess we just have to wait a couple of months and see what happens. Yeah, how we can work together.
Okay. How do the committee members feel? Have we done what we can with this at the moment? We'll have to wait till we'll be able to set up a meeting. Or would the committee like to explore having a virtual meeting with both committees? Excuse me.
Can we review this again in like March and see where everything is then, with if we'll be meeting?
Well, yeah, and I guess the burning question to make a decision on right now is whether we want to organise a virtual meeting of both committees, joint meeting of both committees virtually. I think both committees are have agreed that we want to have a meeting at some point to discuss where we can help each other out if they work together to do certain things. And I guess in short, my belief is that it's not going to be a very successful thing to do it online like this. But you know, some of you have much more experience than I do in using this medium. Maybe it would be a very valuable thing to do. So that seems to me to be the choice to be made at this point, is if we want to try and arrange a virtual meeting with both committees, or do we postpone until such time as we can have an in-person meeting.
Dave,
Nancy?
I'd prefer if we could meet, not virtually. I think it would
Not
be, yeah, I think it'd be much better for us to meet socially, but, you know, together when things have calmed down a bit. So.
Okay, thanks, Nancy. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think,
No, I was gonna say, I second that as well. That might work better.
yeah. I think we need to meet cordially together, and any more than 8 or 9 people on a Zoom, it just gets too convoluted unless you're have one person presenting something to a group. This is okay. I wouldn't say this is a nice way to meet, but I think if we can all get together and look across the table and see how we all are looking to create a good Brighton history, a Brighton heritage, and tell Brighton stories together, and support each committee. I think that'd be a good thing to wait a couple months, and if we have to put it off, maybe a nice spring day out in the park.
Interesting idea.
But
Do
let's
we have
wait.
a consensus that we'll put it off until such time as we can meet physically? What's how's the whole committee? Raise your hand if you want to try and arrange a virtual meeting
Oh, no.
with both committees.
Not
I've got
at the
one
moment,
hand
no.
already, a thumb up. Sorry?
Sorry, I heard 2 questions. Are we going to just decide by committee that we're going to have a virtual meeting, or we're going to have a in-person meeting? In-person meeting, I prefer that.
Okay.
Okay.
So we've got 2 people, or at least if I count myself. There's 3 people that would like to postpone until such time as we can have an in-person meeting. Is that okay with the rest of the committee? Or do you want to make an argument for doing something more immediately?
That's what we do. I think that sounds okay.
Okay. So we'll minute it that we agreed to wait until such time as we can arrange a live meeting. Okay? Anybody else want to make an additional comment? Okay. So that deals with 8.2. So we're on to 8.3, the 2021 annual report. You have the draft in front of you. I'm looking for somebody to move approving that report.
Are we looking at the 2021 or the 20? I read the 2022 today. So which one are we approving?
2021 annual report.
That was last year though. Okay. So,
Well, exactly. Yeah, you can't report on this year because we're barely into
no,
it.
okay.
This is our
I
first
just saw 2022 somewhere, which kind of confused me. Okay, so
meeting.
2021.
If you did,
Yeah,
then it's my error.
okay.
So
Because I thought it was for UK goals and objectives for
no, I've got it there.
2022.
Yeah,
goals
I've got
and
it here. Brighton Heritage Advisory Committee Annual Report 2021. So it's what we did over the past year.
Okay. So I read something different earlier. Because there was,
Okay, that's possible.
because at the end it had goals for 2022. But I'll have to go back. I'll have to go back and look at it again.
Yeah, it does have goals for 2022, but that's the whole idea
Of the
having an
2021.
annual report, and then at the end of it, saying
At
what
the
you
end
want
of
to
the
try
year.
and move
Okay.
forward with
Yeah.
next year.
Okay. Okay.
Nancy?
Okay,
Nancy?
I love that. The report's really good. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that where it says installation of the heritage plaque, it says to commemorate the apple canning industry. Is it just for the canning industry or is it specific to apples? Because I think that cannery also did a number of other produce. They did peas and beans and tomatoes and was it specific to apples?
It was the
As far as I
Canadian
remember,
canners.
it was, yeah.
That's what I thought it was. The canners.
Canadian canners. So
Okay, so that was my only comment on that. It wasn't apple canning, just apples.
right.
Yeah, okay. So that wording should,
Okay.
but it's great. I love the report. It's very good.
Okay. Well, that's, yeah.
It actually
Guess
looks like we
should look
did something. I said-
Well, we did.
We did though, in spite of all the, what was going on in the world. We did.
I lost everybody for a bit then.
Okay, are we back?
Everybody's still online?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see.
So 2021 annual report. Somebody want to move approving it? Need approve, move on a second. Nancy's moving to approve it. And I need a seconder.
All second.
and Robert second. All in favour?
Yes.
It's carried. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is previous agenda outstanding items to track, and plaque maintenance update discussion is on the list. So I'm not sure why that's on the list, but anyway. Did anybody have anything to report on that, or suggestions for moving forward on it?
So just as a
Yes.
reminder, at your last meeting, Tom was unable to attend, but forwarded me an email to forward to all of you. And that had some info about the plaques. So I had kind of added it to the agenda because you didn't get to review the email until after your meeting.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know if I remember seeing that email now, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember it. So,
We did all receive the email. I think the problem, what happened is we get these plaques, but we need staff to maintain them. The committee can't maintain them. It's not really for us to do. I think it's been a back and forth about, ways to maintain. But at the end of the day, I think our request from this committee is that can someone on staff maintain the plaques? I don't think it's for us to be going around and maintaining the plaques that were put up. Once they're put up, they're municipal property.
Yeah.
That's my feeling on it. We've been going back and forth quite a bit on this, but I think maybe that's our request as a committee. I don't know what everyone else thinks. Is our request is, can there be a member of staff, public works, whoever, parks, I'm not sure who, that can just do a bit of maintenance on the plaques to make sure they're clean and let us know if one needs to be replaced.
To the chair, I did prompt a few staff for that question. I'll have to circle back to see what the answers were. It's been a while now since I've raised that with Public Works and Parks and Rec. I'll circle back and see what the replies were.
okay.
that sounds great. Well, so
Thank
we're
you.
just minutes that, yeah. Paul will look into it and report at the next meeting. Is that okay, Paul?
Yeah, I'll do that. We should have it on
Oh, okay.
the next agenda. Agreed.
Okay, great. So next meeting date.
February 7th or the 14th. 7th is the first Monday.
I think both
Does that
of
work
those
for-
dates are okay. 7 for the, what about, would the 14th be better? Bit more. That'll be a month.
You're saying we can have either the 7th or the 14th? What's, well, it depends on whether it's virtual or not, right?
So you're the only committee that meets on Mondays, so it's not the end of the world to make it the 14th. And you won't be conflicting with me or Marina anyways. You would have to, Director Walsh would have to confirm that he's available. But otherwise, I would assume that it's going to be virtual. And then if it can be in person, I will make sure to share the good news as soon as I can. But going forward right now, I would just assume that it's going to be virtual until hopefully we can get the world under control.
Yes.
The 14th is available for the planning staff.
Okay,
Okay, that sounds, so it's going to be February the 14th?
yes,
That sounds good.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
Kind of appropriate. We love those houses. Okay, so
okay,
I'll
Oh.
take a motion to adjourn.
okay. I can,
Who's going to adjourn?
I'll move that we adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Susan. And a seconder.
I'll second, or Laura was,
Okay, Robert second. All in favor? Sure. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, committee.